Welcome to week 9 of Explore the Bible. Continuing in the book of John. Looking forward to the passage today. Great teaching passage from this confrontation that Jesus has with some of the people that are listening, and they're always arguing. You know, they've always got something going on, some reason. So we'll be in John chapter 7 today. Before we dive into that passage, be sure and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Click that little button on YouTube to subscribe. Like the video, share it with other people. If you've got questions, comments, thoughts, answers, whatever, put those in the comments. We appreciate that. We're on our way to 1,000 subscribers, so be sure you subscribe today. We're going to be in John chapter 7, 14 through 29, so let's go ahead and dive into this passage. When the festival was already half over, Jesus went up into the temple and began to teach. Then the Jews were amazed and said, "How is this man so learned since he hasn't been trained?" Okay, so they're here at a festival, a Jewish festival, and Jesus is teaching. Right, he's sharing with them these truths about who he is and who God is and all of this, right? And he's in the temple teaching, and the Jews are amazed. Now, it doesn't necessarily say who these are, if these are scribes, Pharisees, Sadducees, the Sanhedrin Council, or just the everyday crowd of people. It appears to be kind of a mix of all of them, right? And they don't understand. How does he understand this? Because he hasn't been to school. He hasn't been to our school. And the Pharisees knew. I mean, they knew who Jesus was by now. They knew they'd never been to school with him. So where did he learn? There's a little bit of a bias here, isn't there? This education bias. We've got the education. You don't have the education. How can you know all of this? They're not doubting. I want you to notice this. They're saying, they're admitting he knows his stuff. He has learned. He is a learned man, right? Smart guy. He's right. He knows what he's talking about. They're just saying he hasn't been to the seminary, right? He hasn't been to the right schools. He wasn't in school with us. So how did this happen? Jesus answered them, "My teaching isn't mine, but is from the one who sent me. If anyone wants to do his will, he will know whether the teaching is from God or whether I'm speaking on my own. The one who speaks on his own seeks his own glory, but he who seeks the glory of one who sent him is true, and there is no unrighteousness in him." So if he's not trying to get his own glory, if he's not out to make a name for himself, then he is a person of integrity. He's a person who doesn't have any guile, right? Who's not trying to trick you or trying to deceive you or trying to get you to do something for him. There's no unrighteousness in him. He's a true speaker. And Jesus clearly here is making this statement about who he is and where he came from, but also making it clear that he is from God and that his teaching comes from God the Father, okay? So he says, "My teaching isn't mine, but is from the one who sent me." Okay, so I've been sent, right? If anyone wants to do his will, he will know whether the teaching is from God or whether I'm speaking on my own. So he's saying there's two choices here. It's either from me or it's from God. Okay, but he's already said it's not from me, right? It's from the one who sent me, okay? And the one who speaks on his own seeks his own glory. The one who seeks the glory of the one who sent him is true. So I'm seeking God's glory. Jesus is making this argument with them that, my teaching is not mine. My teaching is from God. God sent me. I'm not seeking my glory. I'm seeking his glory. And so because of that, you can trust what I'm saying. And then he says, "Didn't Moses give you the law? Yet none of you keeps the law. Why are you trying to kill me?" So now the confrontation really ramps up, right? Because in essence, what he is, and this is where we get the idea, there are certainly some scribes, Pharisees, some religious leaders in this group because of this trying to kill me, right? So he confronts them. To this point, maybe he's answering what might be honest questions. We know they're not honest, right? They always try to pose them as being honest inquiries, but they're not. He knows that. He knows their motivation, at which point he asks them, "Why are you trying to kill me?" And look at the crowd's response. "Well, you have a demon. Who is trying to kill you?" What? I mean, they go right to the demon role, right? It's like, okay, Jesus sets up this. It's either from God or from me. And they say, "Well, you've got a demon." They're rejecting his teaching as being from God, although they admit that he knows his stuff. He's a learned man, but he must be from demon. from a demon. And here Jesus says, I performed one work, and you're all amazed. Jesus answered, this is why Moses has given you circumcision, not that it comes from Moses, but from the fathers, and you circumcise a man on the Sabbath. If a man receives circumcision on the Sabbath, so that the law of Moses won't be broken, are you angry at me because I made a man entirely well on the Sabbath? Stop judging according to outward appearances, rather judge according to righteous judgment. Make good, righteous judgments, godly judgments, judgments that are in line with who God is. So, we've had this conflict because he healed the man on the Sabbath, and so they're upset because he's breaking the law, but he teaches so well and he seems to know so much, and they have this conflict going on within them because the law is not Old Testament law that they're so concerned about. It's all the additions to the Old Testament law that have them bothered. They can't understand why Jesus is breaking this Old Testament law, but he's such a good teacher. And of course, a lot of the things he's saying are confronting the Pharisees, the religious leaders, so they're trying to get rid of him. And so they just go straight for this. Well, you're demonic, right? And Jesus says, well, I did this one thing and you were amazed. But the fact that I did it on the Sabbath has you bothered. Says, but you can circumcise on the Sabbath. You circumcise on the Sabbath all the time. But if I heal somebody on the Sabbath, you got a problem with that? How does that work? I don't understand that. I made a man entirely well. Stop judging according to outward appearances. This is the clear thing is that the following of the law for so many had become the end in and of itself. To be seen as a lawful person, to be seen as one who followed all of the Mosaic law plus all of the rabbinic interpretations of that law, you need to be seen as this. This is what mattered, that people saw you. And so they would have outward shows of things on their clothing and whatever, how they wear, and they would just, it had become a show. And Jesus says, you need to stop looking outwardly and you need to make righteous judgments. You need to judge based on how God sees things. Well, it's hard to judge based on how God sees things if you don't see things the way God does. This is a great challenge for them. So I want you to see the next thing that happens here. Some of the people of Jerusalem were saying, isn't this the man they are trying to kill? Yet look, he's speaking publicly and they're saying nothing to him. Can it be true that the authorities know he is the Messiah? But we know where this man is from. When the Messiah comes, nobody will know where he's from. Okay, some of the people in Jerusalem, so there were people there that are trying to figure this out. And I want you to notice the first thing they say. Isn't this the man they're trying to kill? Now, right back here, Jesus says, why are you trying to kill me? And the crowd says, he's trying to kill you. No, he's trying to kill you. But the truth was they knew that. When they said this, they knew it was a lie. But Jesus is the one with the demon. Don't be surprised when people who are against the gospel, who are against Christ, will lie openly and then accuse you of being a liar. Don't be surprised when that happens. So they know he's trying to kill. So there are other people that are they're actually dealing with some of the things that are going on. They're trying to interpret the events of Jesus and the teachings of Jesus that don't equate with the teachings that they've heard all along. And so it doesn't make sense for him. He says he's speaking publicly, but they're not doing anything to him. So maybe they know he's the Messiah. Maybe they think he is because they haven't killed him. So you see, there is some political pressure on the authorities to take care of Jesus, to get rid of him, because some people are saying, well, if you don't get rid of him, maybe he is who he says he is. But we know where this man's from. They know he's from Nazareth, right? Jesus of Nazareth. When the Messiah comes, nobody will know where he's from. So they have this thought, this teaching that nobody will know where he's from. When the Messiah comes, nobody will know where he comes from. But now look, as he was teaching in the temple, Jesus cried out, you know me, and you know where I'm from, yet I have not come on my own, but the one who sent me is true. You don't know him. I know him because I am from him, and he sent me. They knew where he was physically from. I'm not sure they understood where he was actually from, right? He's from Nazareth, but did they know he's from God the Father, that he is God the Father in the flesh? No, they didn't know that. And while they thought they knew him, they did not know him, right? And he's telling them, you know me, you know where I'm from, but I haven't come on my own. The one who sent me is true. You don't know him. You don't know God the Father. Ooh, that's a statement, right? You don't know him. You don't know God. You think you do, but you don't. and I know him because I am from him and he sent me. They don't realize he is from God. They don't get it. They're not there yet. It hasn't happened for them. And this is a real problem for them understanding who Jesus was. And obviously this is a challenge still today. That people, and it's the famous, right? Is he Lord, a liar? Is he lunatic? Which one? There is this great discussion about and difficulty in understanding. And I think it's helpful to us as Christians to appreciate this. Okay, appreciate that there are still people who are struggling where Jesus is from, who he is, and what he's done, and all of that. And understand this is a part of a spiritual struggle that is part of coming to know Christ. It's a part of the whole process of coming to salvation, is coming to a point where you actually truly understand who Jesus is. And this, boy, they struggled, right? It was hard for them to understand this. And that's part of the deal, to understand that Jesus is actually sent by God to them. They didn't get that. Oh, we know where it's from. And maybe we ought to also take the notice here of not always thinking that we know God as well as we think we do, right? Just some humility there is really important. The hubris that causes people to just call things out. The hubris that says, oh, look, you're a demon. You're not from God. Wow. Let's be careful about that too. Okay, I hope that's helped as you study this passage, as you teach. Great passage. A challenging passage for sure, but a good passage. So thanks for watching. I appreciate it. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't done that. Be sure and click that like button, and share it with other people. Comment questions you've got them. You put them down. We want to know what they are. We'll answer everything you put up. Thanks for watching. See you next time.